I think Craig's recording us now.
Awesome. Hi, Craig.
Hi, Craig.
Craig's going to be, he's going to be the invisible man that we occasionally talk about, where nobody's like, I don't know who this guy is. Like what's Neebs, the one who records all their shit?
Ada Hop.
Yeah, Craig is our Ada Hop.
Hey, Craig, how you doing?
All right, so Tomb of Annihilation.
Tomb of Annihilation. So, the group is through the first floor. They've pretty much done everything except for one secret door that leads into a bunch of traps and a mimic. And they may go through that. I'm not sure. Probably they will. But they had to go through a bunch of other traps where there's this 3 chests, and a player has to get inside the chest, close the lid. That lets them turn the key on the inside of the chest. And so luckily I have a party of 4. So 3 people got into the chest locked. They turned the key, the button shows up that the other person has to press. They do that. And first of the 3 chests is a black onyx chest. The second chest is a rusty chest, and the third chest was a silver chest with like frost growing around it. Frost emanating from it.
Before you continue, question. Did they attack every single chest before they messed with it?
Absolutely.
Okay, you good. Your players are just as fucking annoying as mine are. Go ahead.
On top of that, the guy who does all the attacking has a sword called Shatter Spike that essentially auto-crits objects, just like Adamantine.
Yeah.
So they get in the chest, and they all get in the chest all at the same time, which they didn't have to, but they all did. They all got locked inside. And the guy who has the buttons in front of him to press, he doesn't press them one at a time. He goes, I press these 2 at the same time, and then I press the third one. So
okay,
all the traps trigger. And the guy that was in the onyx chest essentially kind of took a disintegrate. That's the best way to explain it. He took 97 force damage.
Good lord.
If it would have taken him to 0, he would have been disintegrated.
Yeah.
He has 102 life.
He's fine. Just shake it off. Yeah.
So, Shelly, my wife, decided to go inside the silver chest with all the frost. And I saw her face on Zoom, and she had both her hands on her forehead, and she was just dreading what I was going to say. And she failed the save. She took 47 frost damage. It wasn't that bad for her. She told me afterwards, though, that she was absolutely certain that she was going to die right then and there.
Roll up a new character.
She has 2 as backup. So, and the third guy in the third chest, there's no damage. Just everything that he has that was metal rusted away. What that was metal and non-magical. So all his magical items stayed, which is not consistent with other traps in TOA. So there's another trap that has a statue he's holding a shield, and any kind of metal object, magical or not, gets attracted to it. If the metal hits the shield, it gets disintegrated.
Ugh.
And then there's another trap further in the dungeon that it's an orb. Anything that's metal, magical or not, gets pulled straight to the orb and adheres to the orb while it's active. So it's weird that this one chest that disintegrates metal didn't take out the magic items as well, too.
So I have another question about the chest. Now, obviously, this would not count for the disintegrate chest, but for the other ones. Were there dead bodies in the chest when they opened them up?
No.
There should have been, because I'm sure along the way some asshole adventurers had died in there.
There are other bodies in the book at different locations.
I mean specifically in the chest traps.
Yeah. There's a trap room that you have to step on tiles the right way. There's a dead body in there. And then there's this rotating crawlway. Yeah, and there's a dead body in there.
I mean, Tomb of Annihilation it's notorious for being just trap heavy and kind of lethal as far as traps go. The fact that you're running Shelly through this, how long has she been playing?
About a year.
Yeah.
Right now? Yeah.
Yeah, that's A hell of an introduction there.
And the best part is too is like she's playing a paladin frontline fighter protector kind of thing, which is totally out of character for her. She always is very shy and in the back, just throwing magics and running away. So the fact that she's doing that is quite good on her. And so she's like seeing traps happen. It's like she's seeing like doors slide down. So she's diving underneath them to like get into the room with the traps. And she's failing all the saves, but somehow she's still alive. One thing that I kind of want to bring up with you to discuss was that in the description of the Tomb of Annihilation, there's the soulmonger that's at the bottom churning and activated, and it's causing the death curse on all of Cholt. And after 6 days of this machine running in this capacity, it activates fully, everybody in the island will die, and the death god comes back to life. And there's no way that the players know about that plan.
Right.
They know there's a lich down there they want to go kill, but that's it. And that's pretty much straight out of the book. So they spend about a day on this floor. Because I'm having to clear the tomb, I don't know whether or not I want to actually, like, once 6 days are up, pull that card out and say, okay, you guys could TPK because you took too long inside the dungeon. So I may shelve that for the time being, because I kind of just want them to go through the dungeon.
As the game master, you completely have that option. Like, they don't have to know anything about how long they have to do it. You could shorten it if you want it, or you could just completely ignore it.
Yeah.
I know Tomb of Annihilation's kind of rough anyway, and having downtime to rest up and heal and everything, like 6 days might be a very short amount of time. I did play. We started on Tomb of Annihilation a long time back, because that's the one that takes place in Cholt, correct?
Yes.
Yeah, like we played. I think we got to level 5 or something before people couldn't play anymore. As D&D groups do.
Yeah.
And I have to say, it was a rough campaign because magic items were super limited. We ended up getting in a fight with some gargoyles at level 3 or 4. Gargoyles are not even that hard, but when you don't have magic weapons to hit them, it sucks.
Yeah, and I gave them the standard DMG starting gold and magic item limit.
Well, there are no starting magic items. I mean, if you start that thing at your first level, you get
No, there's in the DMG. There's a if you start a level 10 character and you want to give them what they would have.
You started them at level 10. I got you. We started at level 1.
Yeah. So they started with magic items, and I let them buy magic items at max cost. So they could buy one rare magic item, or they could buy an uncommon magic item. So the rares are 5,000, the uncommons are 500. One of my players took the 5,000 gold he got from the loot distribution and just bought like 30 magic. And he bought 10 magic items.
What did he buy? So he just bought a whole stack of uncommons?
Yeah, a whole stack of uncommons.
It's not a bad way to do it.
No, and he's causing the most problems with the traps, because he took like boots or spider climbing, and he's on the ceiling the entire time.
Yeah.
So he's not stepping on any pressure plates.
I mean, you can spend 5,000 gold to get a +2 sword, or 500 to get a +1. I mean, I would definitely go for the +1, because then I can also get other equipment to balance that out.
So Shelly forgot to buy ranged weapons for her paladin. She didn't buy any javelins or any kind of throwing axes or anything. Just in the case that she needed.
This sounds so familiar.
So they were fighting the gargoyles right at the front, and she was like, well, it's flying in front of me. I can't do anything. How high is it? It's like, it's about 10 feet. She goes, can I throw my shield at it? I was like, sure, go ahead. And it's a magic shield, so she threw the shield and she got it dead on, and improvised throwing weapon, add her strength modifier to it just for fun.
Yeah.
And she killed the gargoyle with it.
Nice.
Yeah.
Like trying to remember the exact details of it. One of the campaigns I was running, they were pretty high level at the time, 14th, 15th level or something like that. And they were fighting it was a crossbreed between like a demon and a dragon. Naturally it flies all over the place. And the big badass fighter with the dragon slaying sword had no way to reach it. So until like the very last round of combat, he just kind of stood there twiddling his thumbs. I think immediately after that, he went out and bought like flying boots. Yeah, I'll always get ranged weapons, people.
Yeah, and her being very new is helping a lot too. She's asking a lot of the right questions, like, are there any murals in the walls? Are there any like weird other objects in this room? To kind of like try to figure out like what the traps are. She's been writing down exactly what the plaques are and what they say on each floor. Mm-hmm. And since I can't do handouts over virtual tabletop, so
I mean that's good player knowledge, it's good habits for players to get into. Like all of the groups that I play with, or the group I play with, we have a tendency. There's usually one or two of us who are just taking notes. And just as well, there's also one person who just sort of keeps all of the loot and writes it down. Yeah. When I was playing the sorcerer, who was money hungry, I wrote down everything. But now, as the barbarian that I'm playing now, I don't write down shit.
So in our Waterdeep campaign, one of the players that's helping is going through Tomb of Annihilation and is in the Waterdeep campaign. His job is purchasing and acquisitions. So when it comes to money and them getting money in Waterdeep, since there's always a lot of money going through that city and through that campaign, they just keep throwing all the money to him, and they're letting him handle it because out of play, that's all he does is handle money. So he's improving Troll Skull Manor. He's managing the funds. He's paying all the bills and stuff with all the money that they're getting, which I thought was kind of funny. And my wife is just, I don't know. I just give him the money, let him handle that, let him handle the upgrades. I'm just going to sit here and be a tailor.
Yep. Yeah, there always seems to be one character in the group that does that. So for the campaign where I was playing the sorcerer, for a long time I was doing all of the money, and then we picked up a kobold. And kobolds in that world are sort of they're very dragonoid. So they have the aspect of wanting to sort money, count money, and everything. That he became my accountant. He was taking 10% off the top, which I knew he was skimming the entire time. I just let him do it because it's expected. That's how you keep the kobold under control. You let him think that he's getting away with it.
I pay him minimum wage. I know he takes the extra 10%. That's just part of his salary.
Yeah. Oh, he didn't get paid. He just skimmed off the top. That was a fun and interesting campaign.
Yeah, so I'm really enjoying all that, and there's just so many traps. And I was reading through a bunch today. Where like,
Actually, go ahead.
This trap, if it takes you to 0 hit points, just instantly kills your character. And I like how that's a little tag they add to each trap throughout the books, like whether or not they want this trap to just straight up murder your characters or not. So
how experienced is the group that you're running?
So we got the 4 players. My wife, who's been playing for about a year now, this is her second kind of major character. She was a drow warlock before this. And then we have a guy playing a paladin warlock who's the money counter in the other game. He's been playing most of his life, I think at least since 3rd edition. And then there's another guy who's playing the turtle race. I can't remember their name off the top of my head.
Turtles, I think.
Yeah. We just call him the Tortolan because of WoW. So the Tortolan's playing. He's been playing a lot of the Adventure League games that I host at our comics shop, and he's been playing for that for about a year or so. I don't really know his previous experience, but I think he played some 4th edition. And then the last guy's been playing. He currently plays a fighter, Eldritch Knight, and he's been playing since third edition. He's the youngest of the group, so he started with 3.5, skipped fourth edition like most do, and went straight into fifth.
Yeah. I mean, to be completely honest, you and Johnny, I think you guys are the only people I actually know who started in fourth edition.
Yeah, and I think it worked well for us because
you didn't know any better.
Not that we didn't know any better, just because tabletop miniature combat was a shared interest. You know, he spent a lot of time in Warhammer, so this was an easy transition to, okay, now it's Warhammer with PvP. We did Warhammer RPGs in college, so starting with fourth was pretty good for us. And I know we've talked a lot about fourth and its shortcomings, and we can probably talk about that in length in a different thing. But, you know, we started in fourth, and going into fifth just felt natural. It feels exactly the same. You know, just a couple things changed from my perspective.
Yeah, they sort of opened up how they didn't really even change the rules so much as they just sort of opened up what is available to do.
Yep.
Like fifth edition, I think, is a wonderful edition. It's easy for players to learn, and it's easy for game masters to run.
A lot of what I do based off of like the skills of the players and just their skills, and making them do a lot of checks to kind of investigate and work their way through things. You know, if you can do a bunch of skill checks and skip an encounter, I'm going to let you do that. And that worked in fourth edition. It works the exact same way in fifth edition. So I guess my DMing style didn't change much between the two editions. Just how your character swings a sword changed from a back-end mathematical standpoint.
Yeah. Like I mean, I started with the red box edition, basic D&D, and then quickly picked up into second edition. And second edition rules are very different, but it's primarily on the to-hit armor class 0 aspect of it. Like, it's your attack rolls that are different. Beyond that, D&D really hasn't changed a whole heck of a lot. It's definitely become more streamlined. Where it's like second edition was very, very theater of the mind. You had such a limited amount of options of what your character could be. If you were a fighter, you were a fighter. You know, there wasn't different types of fighters, really. I think later on with second edition, they started adding like the Warriors Compendium, Mage Compendium. But even then, that just gave you options. It didn't really change the way your character was. I know with third edition, they added, I've been playing fifth so much lately, or there are archetypes in fifth, prestige classes in third. And when prestige classes are where it really opened up what your characters could be. You know, by that you hit fifth level or seventh level, and then you become this other, effectively it's another class. It's kind of an interesting transition from second to third, and they've sort of carried that over, but they've pulled it back a lot with fifth, and they probably did with fourth.
Yeah, I guess that's the whole like D20 system that WotC has taken and refined over the years, and I guess mastered in a sort of sense. You know, that's why there's the D6 system and the other systems out there that kind of change things up. Like the Cthulhu system being a D100 system. Yeah,
it was percentile. At least the version I used to play and run was. I don't remember what edition that was, second or third. It's been a while since I've played or run any Call of Cthulhu.
I think they're like 6th or 60th, one of those two.
There's only off by a couple there. And like Shadowrun was all D6s. I don't believe that system's changed a whole lot as far as that goes, but I haven't. Once again, it's been last time I played that was in the 90s.
Yeah, I played it once, and you know, not having the rule book or being able to read anything and just be given like a character generator program and saying, okay, here, just pick one and you know, just run with it and you'll figure it out. Just press the buttons, and it was very confusing. I still didn't know what I did half the time. All I know is I played a troll samurai, And since I had no frame of reference of what trolls look like in Shadowrun, I could only imagine the World of Warcraft troll, like the jungle trolls, like the ones you can play.
Okay, yeah, they're definitely not like that. They are much more akin to God, what is his name? That giant Muppet from the Muppet Show. Smuggies. I can't remember his damn name. I'm drawing a complete blank. Hang on.
So while you find that name, so basically I could only envision a World of Warcraft troll that was then told was 12 feet tall. So now I'm thinking of this huge, lanky, skinny
Sweetums.
guy. Sweetums?
Think Sweetums without all the hair. That's kind of what trolls in Shadowrun look like.
So I'm picturing the jungle troll with this giant samurai sword a la Sephiroth in a bar, just like hacking people up capoeira style. And is
they don't even use swords in capoeira.
I know.
That's lovely.
I can imagine.
Yeah.
So that was my only exposure to Shadowrun. I got the game on Steam, and that's, I guess, similar.
Oh yeah, no, it's dead on.
Okay.
Yeah, no, those games are fantastic in my opinion. I've pretty much played every single Shadowrun game that's ever been released. I started on the Super Nintendo. I played the Sega Genesis one, and then all of the ones that have been released on Steam. I think there was a first-person shooter one that came out too that I played a very little bit, but it didn't really have the feel of Shadowrun. So.
Is there an actual cyberpunk RPG book out there?
Yes. Yeah, even before Shadowrun there was. Also drawing a blank on it.
That might be something I want to reach out and actually try to at least get a hold of. I've always thought about starting a RPG book collection, like get like the player handbooks, like the Dungeon Master handbooks for each major system.
I think it actually was just it was just called Cyberpunk.
Okay.
Yeah, it came out in I don't know the 80s, late 80s. Yeah.
So getting back on the initial topic of traps and TOA, what do you think of the instant death traps?
Oh, I'm all for them, but I'm also an old ass D&D player. Like second edition, there were 3 types of saving throws, one of which was save versus death. So instant death was a real possibility in D&D. They have definitely nerfed people getting killed in the game a lot since second edition.
Yeah, and I find it weird too that most of the instant death stuff only really occurs if you get dropped to the 0 hit points, which I guess kind of makes sense. You fall unconscious.
Sure.
You know.
So just a throwback to second edition. Aside from the save versus death, the original rules as written were you have however many hit points you have, which is equal to whatever that die roll is. So first level wizard, you roll a d4. You have that plus whatever your constitution bonus is. So it was actually possible for a first level wizard to start with 1 hit point. And rules as written were when you hit 0, you're dead.
Okay.
So like literally you could walk outside as a first level wizard, get attacked by a mangy cat on the street and die. So, I would say every game master I ever played with did. Yeah, they did the if you hit -10, you're dead. So they would give you that leeway. So you'd actually have to take a minimum of 11 points to die. But that was not how the rules were written. So.
Yeah, I remember in 4th, if you went down half your hit points negative, you died. That was okay, but I like the 5th edition style a little bit better. Like how you take a hit, you just fail 2 death saves immediately.
Yeah, if the game master is trying to kill you, they could still kill you even in 5th edition. I mean, once you start attacking an unconscious body, it's taking 2 death saves immediately, so you only have to be hit twice at that point.
Yeah, attack bonus action.
Yep. Yeah. It's not that hard to kill off somebody if you really want to. I would rather game masters not do that. Probably a bad idea. That's how you lose players.
Well, I mean, they're in TOA, so it's going to happen. So
yes, but that is also so. Initially, like we need to talk about having a session 0 at some point. Maybe next podcast we'll actually have that discussion. But having that conversation with your players of what to expect in the game you're going to be running.
Mm-hmm.
I would imagine anybody walking into Tomb of Annihilation, you've at least told them ahead of time, hey, this can be very lethal. This is not a cakewalk.
Yeah, I definitely always have had that with my players, specifically in 4th edition, where like I don't like having resurrection spells at all. I don't like characters being resurrected. I'd rather them die and take a critical injury that affects their character on like a personal level, and then move forward from there, unless they're like disintegrated by the holder or something, along those lines. So, like, we had a group that decided to split the party, and, a bunch of drow jumped 2 of them, killed them, essentially, very quickly, and I basically just had them start with no stuff. All their stuff is stolen. They're basically in base common clothes, no boots, and I have a die that I don't remember where I got it, but it has like all the body parts on it: left arm, right arm, left leg.
Hit location die.
So I had them roll that, and that's kind of like the critical injury that they took when the drow beat them up and killed them. So They survived the encounter. Right arm or right hand, just to say right hand, for example, they've lost their right hand. What are they going to do?
They'll be Jaime Lannister and use the left.
Yeah, the Dragonborn Paladin that lost his right arm just decided to get a blade attached to it and went Shattered Hand Orc style and brought the Crusades to the Drow. So it worked out pretty well. I like that. I like that handling of death better than just.
Yeah, like in the sorcerer campaign, I call it that because that's the easiest way to describe it. Because we finally got to a point where we just had so much money. We had employees that worked for us. Effectively what we did is I just took a finger from every single one of the team, had them stored for safekeeping, and if we ever died, we could just get resurrected. Like, it was pretty much impossible to actually permanently kill those characters. Sure, we might lose 1 million gold worth of magic items, but we'd still be there. I'm sure we also all had backup magic items if necessary.
Yeah. So essentially, you're all liches. Your flankers are fingers.
Yeah, I mean, we could all die of old age, but yeah, as far as getting killed by something, even disintegration wouldn't do it because we had body parts that could then be resurrected. So.
I'm trying to find a game. I think it's called Traveler. Have you ever heard of that?
Oh yeah, I'm familiar with Traveler.
Where like the tagline to the game is "Can you survive character creation?"
Yes, actually no. Well, maybe that was Traveler. Oh geez, what is this other one? This may take me a few minutes because I cannot remember the name of it. Traveler. I never got to play Traveler. It was just a sci-fi opera style of game. And I don't know if it was the one that had Can You Survive Character Creation, but there absolutely is one that can kill you during character creation. And I'm drawing a blank. Yeah,
I remember I played that one. I found the character creator online and just kind of went through the entire character creation until my character died of old age. I thought that was a great way to start a character off on his deathbed. But yeah, killing the character is not something I like to do, but it seems to happen quite a lot.
It almost never happens in my play group. It's I'm trying to. There have been characters who've hit dead, but resurrection was easy enough. The current pirate campaign that we're playing in, we are on the cusp of possibly party wiping, and there will not be resurrection if that happens. We are stuck on the plane of water in a Merid city, and we have a tendency to piss off everything around us, including the Merids. So if that happens, we're probably all just dead. Uh,
In
a
the,
lot.
in the,
Have you ever had a player who couldn't handle player death, or couldn't handle character death?
only in Adventure League. We had a few players that would roll up, come to the table with like a level 1 character, and then like Adventure League lets you pop in and out of the game whenever you like. So we were doing the level 1 through 5 campaign session for Baldur's Gate, which is already high on the murdery scale.
Yeah.
And this guy showed up with a level 1 warlock, and we were at the, I'm going to call them the Van Thumpers because I didn't call them anything else. The Van Thumper estate in the sewers beneath their estate. And we're fighting the bosses, and there's a demon there. And this guy's a warlock, level 1, decides to start the fight. So the first round of Elder's Blast flying at his face brought him to 1 hit point for the first Elder's Blast, and the second one brought him to negative his hit point pool. He died. We're about 1 hour into the 4-hour game session.
Oh.
So he's dead, and he just kind of sat there, was very upset that he couldn't keep playing. I was like, you could roll up another level 1 character real quick if you like, and we can keep this going. But he's like, nah, I don't want to. I'm like, okay, it's totally on you if you want to keep playing. You could even replay this guy, just call him Junior or something. We could keep playing. He's like, no, I think I'm fine. Like, you're level 1. We warned you guys that you could possibly die. But
I mean, I guess he handled it reasonably well. But
yeah, he didn't flip the table. I mean, that's
yeah. I've actually had players storm out before and have to go take a breather and everything because their characters died. So some people just can't handle it. They can't separate that in game from out of game, especially if it's a character they've been playing for a long time and get attached to them.
I think if it was 10 years ago, I probably couldn't handle it if I had a very attached character.
Mm-hmm.
Nowadays, I'm fine. Like, if I'm playing my fighter and he dies, it happens. He exists in every other type of RPG and game that I can just pull up and play him again. I don't lose anything with him dying in the tabletop, but I can kind of see that some people will have that problem.
Yeah, I mean, we've seen it at LARP plenty of times.
My wife was very upset. There's a couple times where she could have lost her drow warlock, and she is very attached to it. And that was her first official real 5e character.
Mm-hmm.
And the couple close calls she had, I never pulled a punch on her at all. But she came close a few times, and she was very upset with the chance that she could die and lose the character. But now, about after a year of playing, she's kind of like, okay, if this character dies, I have good backups, and I'll be okay.
Yeah, there you go. Yeah, so yeah, having backup characters that you want to play is something to look forward to. Like, if I lose, I'm playing a tiefling barbarian right now, and I really enjoy that character. But if he dies permanently, I will just make something new and interesting also to play. Might take a couple of game sessions to start fleshing the character out in my own mind, but I certainly wouldn't worry about losing the other one. Pulling punches. So, as a DM, do you pull punches? Do you not pull punches?
I don't. And I actually roll in front of my players most of the time.
Okay, see, I hide all my stuff if I can. That's why I don't like Roll20 as much. It's harder to hide stuff.
I find it's not that it cheapens the situation.
Mm-hmm.
If I pull a punch, it's going to be in the situational modifier kind of the situation. Like, if there's a guy behind cover or something like that, that may give him 2 more to his AC.
Yeah.
And that's not something they're going to see in particular. So I guess that kind of is like pulling a punch.
It is. I mean, there's different ways to pull punches. Like, I don't know. I very, very, very rarely alter dice rolls. Like, if I roll it, I roll it. But I will definitely pull punches in the number of guys they're having to deal with. Occasionally in the hit points that are left on something. Hell, there have been times where they're steamrolling the shit out of me, and I'll effectively I'll double the hit points of whatever the mob is. Like I don't want to do that, but sometimes I'd much rather entertain my players than to give them a super weak encounter. Like if they get to that last guy and they would technically have steamrolled him in 2 rounds, well, that's not going to be much fun for them because it's over with.
So I had a situation like that happen to me, where I had to set up this boss encounter with a Lizardman Shaman and 2 Lizardman Brutes to kind of protect the Shaman. And I changed his spell lineup so that he would, instead of summoning whatever creature that he would normally summon, he was going to summon a fire. He was going to summon a fire elemental. And, because the party at the time was made up of like a monk and a drow fighter, a drow warlock, and a human cleric, half the team was going to take damage by punching the
just attacking him. Yeah.
So the monk and them snuck up on the door. It was already open, so they were able to get a good idea where the shaman was. And they did a surprise round on it. The monk had top initiative, so he, as all monks do, ran 375,000 squares
yeah.
to the shaman, the long way around.
Yep.
And this stunning struck the crap out of that guy. And they all loaded on that one guy. And because he died in the surprise round, there was no fire elemental. And they usually made easy work of the 2 bodyguards that he brought with him.
Yep.
So it was a very, kind of like, that was an easy encounter for a boss encounter.
Yeah, anticlimactic.
But at the same time, it was their choice to make it anticlimactic, even though they didn't know it. They're the ones that were able to basically see the encounter, work their way through the encounter, like, okay, this guy has to go out first. And there was 5-10 minutes of fight prep before they started that. So they were kind of rewarded with the easy encounter.
Yeah, they came in prepared. And a lot of times, if it's an easy encounter, I'm just going to let it go. But as you start getting into the higher levels of the game, characters are just able to deal so much damage and do so much broken stuff that even having legendary resistances and all these abilities, legendary actions, that's still not enough a lot of the time.
Especially with Stunning Strike. And I could talk about that for hours.
Yeah, that's another whole podcast.
I'm glad only monks can stun. At least I hope.
As far as I know, that's the case. What was I going to say? Paranoia was the other game that I was thinking of. For death during character creation. But yeah, Traveler, apparently, when I was researching it online, apparently Traveler is also death during character creation. Which just seems ridiculous, but funny nonetheless.
I've always wanted to do like a session 0, which is like, okay, you and your friends are all living in the farm. You don't really have stats. You just have 10 across the board for all your stats. And like then put them in a situation where like, okay, you're now in this, let's say, barracks. You need to choose weapons to fight the invading horde. And the weapon they choose then becomes their class. And
yeah, like a video game.
Yeah, like a video game almost.
I've
always wanted to do that kind of session 0 to a group.
Maybe I'll do that this weekend if we don't have anything planned. I'll run a Roll20 session where they have to pick their weapon of choice. Answer these questions, and this will determine your alignment and so forth.
Very, very beginning of Kingdom Hearts in a lot of ways.
Yeah, there's so many video games that are like that. Even Skyrim, I think, did that. Not necessarily with the weapons of choice, but answer these questions to determine your class.
Fallout does that a lot.
Yeah, Fallout was big on that.
But I it's always kind of like wanted it to happen and kind of work that way. And being that they're all no roles yet to determine their stats, they can't like pre-plan out exactly what they're going to be doing.
Yep.
So maybe they have a more natural feel of like, well, I'm going to take a sword.
And there's always going to be that one bastard who grabs the loot. Like the LUTE loot. Yeah, they're going to be the bard. Somehow you're going to defend your farm with a fucking guitar. But
So what I was thinking about that too is like, so assume that you're in a barracks, or better yet, assuming they're in a barn, and in the barn they have, let's say, like a war maul of some kind. They have, a staff. They have, a sword. They have a magic book. They have a lute. A weird object, and you lay out an object for each class, a bow and arrow, and you let them kind of choose. There's always going to be that one player who goes like, well, I'm in a barn, right? I got to think of a weapon. Okay, I'm going to go with the horseshoes and the rope, but I'm going to tie the rope to the horseshoes, and then I'm going to use that as like a makeshift whip.
I'll make a set of bola.
That's it. What class does that become? What happens if they choose, like, I'm just going to choose the bullseye lantern, and I'm going to take a bale of hay with me so I can hide behind it as I try to, sneak away.
Yep. And then there's the one jerk who's like, I'm just going to fisticuff my way out of this. They get to be the monk.
I'm going to set the barn on fire. That's a distraction. No one gets to class.
Yeah, we have literally described the Dungeons and Dragons cartoon. If I recall correctly, didn't they just pick up items and that's what class they became?
The dungeon master gave them items.
Oh, that's what it was. Okay. I haven't seen it in a while.
I have it on D&D if you want to DVD if you want to borrow it.
No, I think it's all on Netflix or YouTube. I know I saw the entire series somewhere recently. I think it might be on Netflix, actually.
All right, guys, that's it. Thanks for listening, and see you next time.